Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. I am one of your lovely hosts, Erin, and this is
I am Krista.
Krista. Wait, which way? That way now. Okay.
Yeah. You're on this. No, you're this
it's
way.
all opposite. It's opposite. We have a fun night ahead of us tonight. Sorry if a horse walks up behind me or a random dog. I had some technical difficulties with my Wi-Fi today, and so we are doing this from my phone in my backyard. So that I have a lot of animals. You never know what you're going to see. So.
No, one night we were sitting on Erin's deck, and her horse was drinking out of her pool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah, there's been many times I'm in my hot tub, and I'll be scared because a horse just like walks up, and I'm like, nobody closed the gate. So, anyways, Krista, would you like to introduce our guest this evening?
We're really excited to have Jessica Jones here. She is a remote viewer, but she's not only a remote viewer, she also is a cryptid researcher with Bigfoot and all that kind of good stuff. And I've shared a lot of her different podcasts, so I don't know if any of you guys have watched her on other shows. I mean, she's been on Bettina's. I know the Texas Front Porch. You're on Brunch with Rob. You know, you're on a bunch of them. So I don't know if you guys have seen her, but I'm going to let her kind of tell us all a little bit about herself and what she does.
Yeah.
So this is Jessica. We're glad to have you.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
hey.
Thanks for being here.
Thank y'all for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun tonight. Yeah, I'm Jessica Jones. I am a Bigfoot field researcher based out of Georgia. Today, in the moment, I'm actually a weekend host at Space Out Radio. I have a show there every Saturday and Sunday night where I talk about cryptids. And on Friday nights, I am a member of Texas Front Porch, and I have my own show there with that group called Remote Viewing Investigations with Jessica Jones. And I do that every Friday night. So, and that's where I remote view paranormal attacks and like weird paranormal stuff. Mm-hmm. So I do that. But if you want to rewind and go back to the very beginning, I grew up as a kid having a lot of paranormal experiences. You know, I saw a ghost, and I would take my little kindergarten mat out to the front yard. I lived on a farm out in the middle of nowhere. And I would lay my mat down and look up at the sky at night and look for UFOs. Okay, wow. So I've always been in tune to paranormal, ghosts. I liked all any kind of ghost show on TV when I was a kid. Okay, but yeah, I've always had a fascination with all cryptids and anything that's weird. So
right.
Yeah, and then I guess when I was in my 30s or so, I'm just going to say it was about 12 years ago now. I had my mom was going to these meetings on Wednesday nights, and she had friends there that they would give they'd have a different speaker every Wednesday, and it was always on like metaphysical stuff, paranormal, like survival skills. I mean, anything from psychic mediums to magicians to Bigfoot field researchers to mediums to people that knew about silver and gold and Bitcoin, like that kind of stuff. I mean, it was like a variety show. Okay.
Wow.
Every Wednesday, but it was so fun. It was like a staple here in Georgia. In Marietta, Mr. Sam's house is what we called it. And she told me, I used to go with her pretty often. And it was always a good time. And one week there were some gentlemen that were going to be there that were Bigfoot field researchers. And so my mom was like, hey, you should come. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I went, and these guys knew what they were doing. I was like, well, you know, if I've seen ghosts and I've seen UFOs and all this other stuff, why would Sasquatch not be real? You know? So, right. So I went to go hear these guys, and here I am now, 12 years later. I became a member of their team eventually because I was listening to what they were saying, and they had such great evidence, and they were so passionate about seeing and interacting with Bigfoots in North Georgia, okay, and like all over the South. And so, of course, after the presentation was done, I was like raising my hand, and I walked over to them to talk, and I was like, all right, well, if these things are real, where's a body? You know, where's the poop? You know, where's all that weird stuff, you know?
Right.
And I think they saw that I was really interested, and so they invited me on an expedition with them, and I went. And it's kind of funny because it's like everybody thought I was nuts. I'm going in the woods with some strange men, for a weekend. But it was honestly the best decision that I ever made. Okay, it was so fun. I got out there, and I had interactions with Bigfoot that weekend. I had UFO activity all weekend, and it was, and I had a good time. It was a lot of fun, and they asked me to be a member of their team, and so here I am talking
Wow.
about it. It's been it'll be 12 years now this year.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, but it didn't just talk with Bigfoot. It wasn't just a Bigfoot experience. I mean, we're seeing ETs. We're having interaction with portals. We actually have documented portals
Mm-hmm.
and sent people into them and out of them, and you know, lots of UFOs, ghosts, all that stuff. You name it, we've experienced it. So,
Wow,
um,
very cool.
yeah,
So
it's a lot of fun.
do you just do the remote viewing, or are you like a medium too? You can also, read
Oh
the
yeah.
other side and all that good stuff too.
Oh yeah, it's all that. It's all combined. Now I'm actually I am I do have psychic abilities. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
every human has the capability to be psychic,
Right.
but not everybody's tuned into it. Okay,
Exactly.
and so when I first started doing my Bigfoot field research, I didn't know what remote viewing was. I never heard of it, but the head of my team is one of the best remote viewers in the world. Okay, and
Wow.
so he former, formally trained and all that stuff, and so he saw, he understood we're all having these really weird experiences. We're missing time
Mm-hmm.
in the woods and stuff, and so he decided, well, hey, let's look into this stuff. Let's go ahead and train the whole team on remote viewing. So over the past at least 10 years now, my team has been trained in remote viewing, the whole team.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I don't even, I've watched documentaries and stuff where the government actually like has a group of, or had a group of remote
Yeah.
viewers, to
Yeah.
go into these places and stuff. So, I mean, it's something that's out there that like the government, technically they acknowledge.
Oh yeah, I mean they've used them at least. We know for sure going back to the 1960s
Yeah.
with the Cold
Right.
War. Okay, like
Right.
Russia was using them, the psychic spies, and so America
Right.
was like, well, we got to do it too, So,
Right.
so
Right.
Project Jedi, Project Stargate. I mean, there's several programs where they utilize remote viewers, and
Wow.
I gotta say, I don't think they ever stop, but I'm not
Yeah.
an expert in that,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You also,
Right.
when I had chatted with you on the phone with Bettina, you had
Mhm.
told me that you also work with the police.
Yeah, well, I've done some missing persons cases,
Mhm.
and occasionally throughout the years, I've gotten high priority targets from the head of my team, and I
Wow.
never know what it is, but I can
Mhm.
safely assume that it's going to be a missing person or a cold case,
Mhm.
something that needs to be solved immediately, and so yes, and I've even gotten a request from Nancy Grace's crime stories at some point to help with the
Wow.
case. And this is honestly my favorite hobby. Like I just have a
Yeah.
lot of fun doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
I gotta say though, not a single person I've ever found was alive. They're all deceased,
Right.
unfortunately. Yeah.
But you know what,
Unfortunately.
though, like I had told you before, at least you're bringing closure to the family,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
important, I think.
Yeah.
I would want to know, whether my loved one is out there being tortured and hurt or
Yeah.
if they're at peace, So for
Yes.
sure, I think you do good. You do really good
Thank you.
work,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's a very great tool to have in your tool belt. Okay, especially when you're doing
Mhm.
paranormal research out in the field, and I mean just in everyday life. It's so important that like we're tuned in psychically.
Yeah.
Aaron understands. I know both of y'all
Yeah.
understand that. It's
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
valuable tool to have. To be able to
It
pick up
is.
on energies of people, and to sense danger. I
Right.
mean,
And
Right.
even that kind
Right.
of stuff.
for me, I had told you when I had talked to you on the phone that I prefer to. I used to at one time. I used to do readings for people, and uh, I had a bad experience. It wasn't really a bad experience. I guess I'll just air my trash here, but it was a lady who was dying of cancer, and all she wanted was to be alive long enough to see her grandbaby be born. And honest to God, and I know I'm probably going to get persecuted for this, but And I had read her before, you know, so
Mhm.
this was an ongoing thing. And when I seen that she was not going to be alive to see her grandbaby, I lied to her. And that was wrong. You know, I should have been upfront and honest with her. And after that, I quit reading people. It just put me in a bad spot
Yeah.
because the fact that I lied to her, but I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
And
that's
Right.
part of being human, though. You know,
yeah,
it's we're human.
Right.
So
so I could never,
Right.
I never did another reading after that. It just, it just wasn't for me. So I realized that I like the dead, you know, so I go
Feel
in
ya.
places and, you know, I can tell you who's there or, you know, what's around and, you know, all that good stuff. So I like doing that. And, you know, so that's where I use mine for now, you know, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you get it too. I know Erin gets it. You know, when you meet someone, you know if you immediately like them or not.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, or what kind of person they are, or you know. So I know you get
Well,
that too.
this is how I've generally explained it to people over time, like with abilities, is like what you had said, Jessica. We all have them. We
Yeah.
all have them. You know, I think that. Oh, is she there? There she is. Am I cutting out?
No, Erin.
Krista, am I cutting out? Yeah.
No, you're good.
No, I'm not
No,
cutting out. Oh,
You're
no.
okay.
there. We see ya.
Okay. All right. It's that moment where you just freeze up.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was just saying that you know, we all have abilities.
Mhm.
I refer to it as, you know, some of us, like with playing baseball or being a concert pianist, some of us just have that natural ability to
Mhm.
become that concert pianist or that professional baseball player.
Mhm.
You just have it in your blood. You know, generally you've had maybe other family members that have been, you know, concert pianists and have played in symphonies and things like that. Um, it doesn't mean that you can't play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on the piano. It just means that maybe
Right.
you're not going to play Mozart or Beethoven and be, you know, on some huge stage. You know,
Right.
just like with baseball, and that's how I've always described it to people, and that's why I tell people use those senses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If when you're investigating anything, you know, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's UFOs, paranormal, anything, use your senses. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes we're so locked up with the phone and with being busy and doing so much stuff that our senses have like really dulled down. So if I think
Mhm.
if people just really take that time to really just be out in nature and just take a deep breath, um,
Right.
you'll really tune that back in.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think the nature is a great reset button. And so I love getting out in nature. I spend a lot of time in the woods and also about the psychic abilities. Our psychic abilities have been under attack for centuries. Okay.
Mhm.
And so I feel like the fluoride and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's our pineal glands have been calcified in so many
Yep.
ways.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of being like aware of that and taking steps to try to decalcify, okay,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
pineal
Right.
gland. And just to start noticing the
Yeah.
subtleties and the energy shifts and you know how you feel around certain people and
Right. Right. Yep. What
you
kind of
know
people they are. Yep.
Exactly.
For sure.
yeah,
For sure. Real quick, I just want to get
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
question answered. Jessica, looks like Robbie asked, do you do viewing for areas that are being investigated for Bigfoot activity?
absolutely. That's part of the reason that my team was trained in remote viewing. You know, we're Bigfoot field researchers, so
Right.
it would make sense that that's what we're doing. So yes, we do. I'm able to pick up on that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and even when we get out to a certain area, we're able to pick up a little easier on what all's out there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I have a question for you. When you're out in, you know, trying to pick up on Bigfoot or whatever cryptid, do you like try to like concentrate on that creature or the area itself? And then what's there? How does that work for
yeah,
you?
all of it. Yeah, we do
Okay.
all of it. Now, if we detect a Bigfoot in the environment, we can,
Mhm.
you know, communicate or whatever, but it depends on the situation. Okay. I'm with a whole team of people that can remote view. So we're all kind of constantly in this world and that world. Okay. If that makes sense, like in the 3D and the 5D and beyond or whatever.
Yeah.
We're constantly kind of, I mean, it's hard to distinguish sometimes
Right.
what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
See, the remote viewing part is what fascinates me on what you do, because I mean, I've done remote viewing. I've been trained in remote viewing, but when Krista told me, like, hey, check this gal out, she remote views like other stuff, I was like, it just kind of blew my mind. I didn't think, I don't know, I guess I never thought to try to do that. You know, I've done remote viewing, but not, you know, a Bigfoot or anything like that, or locations that have had Bigfoot sightings. And it's just, do you feel like it's like when you're tapping in, does it feel different than when you're tapping in to find a person? Like, does it feel different?
No, not at all. It's the same to me. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Like, a lot of times, like with my show that I do, I'm remote viewing alleged paranormal cryptid attacks and things like that. And some of these things I'm remote viewing are stories that have been passed down. I don't even know if they're real. Okay. It could be something totally fake. And there could be elements of these things being true. Okay. And I've come across at least 2 very popular, well-known stories of cryptid attacks that I couldn't find a whole lot of truth in them. Yeah. And it was very frustrating. Like, those are like, it leaves me with like a whole week of me feeling frustrated. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I can't locate the target. Well, guess what? It's because there's no target. It wasn't real.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. And that pertains to like dogman attacks and all this, things like that.
Right.
But when I'm remote viewing something, it's all very similar. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just locating that target. And so it could be Bigfoot, or it could be the Statue of Liberty, or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Right.
Robbie Rain says he'd like to talk to you sometime about the area he's investigating. And I did watch, he's one of DA Roberts' guys on his podcast.
Oh yeah.
And,
love DA.
Yeah, I do too. DA and his guys are great. But they last night I don't know if you caught the show, but
I did. I was listening. I absolutely heard. I know. Yes. So, and I think Krista's chair broke during the interview or something. I do remember that. So I was watching. Yes.
Good deal. Well, anyway, Robbie wants to reach out to you.
Robbie, hit me up. DA knows how to get in touch with me. Yeah. You guys hit me. The cryptidhuntress.com. Send me a message.
There you go. There you go. So let's talk about I kind of basically touched a little bit on ghosts, but you had said that you had aliens visit you at home.
Oh yeah, I did. I've had a couple of occasions, yes, where I don't recall ever seeing actual ETs in like in form, like 3D form ever, and after I started doing Bigfoot field research with my team, we started having a lot of UFO activity out in the field and missing time. And our equipment would just kind of, the time on our equipment would move forward an hour with some of us and then backwards an hour with the others. And just weird stuff, and so the head of my team who taught us remote viewing, he said, it's important. You guys need to start reading up and studying alien abductions. Wow. So that was not very comforting to me, okay, because I was like, well, I guess I've been abducted now, okay, out in the field. But it was a little unnerving, but I was like, well, I've never really looked into it, so let me read books like Communion and Secret Life and The Threat, things like that, okay. And so, of course, I went on Amazon and I ordered about 25 books. And I started reading, and as I was reading them, I started having occurrences in my home at night when I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there would be ETs in my room.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I flipping my shit, just saying.
Well, that's the weird thing, is that I didn't. Okay. And so, but I've been so inoculated to all this high strangeness. I guess that's why I didn't. Yeah. Or here's the even weirder thing, is that, when I was growing up as a kid and a teenager, I would wake up with people standing around my bed sometimes, and they would talk to me and their mouths wouldn't move. So it was like telepathy, right?
Right.
Well, the ETs, they were doing the same thing and their mouths weren't moving. And,
Wow.
but they were conveying messages to me and we were talking back and forth. And so it made me question, well, what if those ghosts were not ghosts? What if those were ETs the whole time?
Wow.
And I was seeing them as people, but they weren't really people, you know, because there's this weird thing where they can put screen memories in your head and convey them as being something else. Just like with all the cryptids, I think that even Bigfoots can do things like that. Some of them.
Do you think there's a correlation between Bigfoot and UFOs, aliens?
I do. Yeah. Now now, can I say that I've ever seen a Bigfoot come out of a UFO? No, I have not. However, a lot of times they're in the same environment together. So whatever that means, I'm not sure yet. Now, some of my team members have remote viewed instances of aliens and Bigfoots working together on certain like projects, I guess you can call it.
Wow.
So there is a connection.
Wow, that's scary. I mean, I kind of thought that, I mean, you know, you see where people like they see them and then they just disappear. Where do they go?
Oh yeah. I think they're going in and out of portals, honestly. Or they're just able to manipulate our, you know, like if we're watching them and that happens, I think they're able to manipulate our eyesight, like the way we see them. We don't have like the right rods and cones or something in our eyes. Like I think they're able to manipulate maybe our minds.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Totally get that. Yeah. Totally get that. We have somebody that's wanting to know. Yeah.
Real quick, Krista. So this is completely like off topic, but I forgot that I was supposed to do this in the very beginning. So my dearest friend, Danielle, her daughter, Gracie, is watching right now. And Gracie is in Children's Hospital in Washington. She's going through treatment to get rid of cancer. And I love that girl to pieces. And I told her that I would give her a shout out tonight when she was watching, and that we all hope that she's going to get better. And all these people who watch this, just keep your thoughts positive for Gracie, because she's going to rock cancer, and tell them to get the hell out. So Gracie, I love you, and woohoo you. So sorry, I just had to do that. I forgot to do it at the very beginning.
No, totally cool. And you know what? You told me that and I forgot too. And I apologize to Gracie for that. For not reminding me.
Gracie, we're sending you so much love and light tonight.
Absolutely.
Little light warrior. Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, you're gonna rock it out.
Yeah, she's a little pistol. She's a little firecracker. So I don't think this stuff has anything on her. So
Right. Oh, and then Danielle says, "Love you, Auntie Erin." So Danielle is Gracie's mother, correct?
Yes. So that's probably what Gracie had said, because she calls me Auntie. So
yeah,
I love you too, Grace.
Yeah. I'm going to mute myself for 1 second because we're putting dogs up, or my daughter is. Because
yeah. So thank you for having to interject on that. So, but I'm really excited though to, you know, just kind of pick your brain about, you know, the remote viewing. I haven't been very, I've only trained in it a little bit. I do more readings with individuals and people and people that are, well, I guess living, but then connecting them with people that aren't necessarily. So I was just very interested when Krista had told me about you, to say, like, you know, does it feel like it's different when you're honing in? But I get what you're saying. Your pick, it's the target. It's not necessarily the spirit or the soul or the energy necessarily of that person. It's the target.
But it kind of is too. Like, it's really, I guess you can call it taxing, you know, just like when you're doing like when you're being a medium and you're channeling, you know, it's because I do that too. I actually read tarot cards and I do private readings for people and stuff. And so I totally, Well, and you can tell when I'm channeling. Like I'll do videos on YouTube. I have it on my YouTube channel, and when I start saying okay, I'm channeling. Okay,
Right.
It's like people. I know people. There are people who are like, "What is wrong with her? Why does she keep saying?" I'm like, okay, because I'm channeling. I can't help it. Okay,
Right.
but okay.
Yeah, we all have our weird.
We all have our weird
do.
things. So that's
Right.
my weird thing. I just noticed that this week, by the way. So
Right.
but
Yeah.
but there is it's very taxing, and it is really difficult when you're communicating. It's like when I am locating a missing person, I have no idea what I'm looking for because all I have is a set of numbers. Okay. And so with remote viewing, it's you don't know, like with my show, I know what I'm looking for, but I don't know the details because I'm front loaded. Because I'm the one who picks
Right.
the targets every week. But see, when I get a call or an email or a message from the head of my team, it says he gives me 8 numbers. And that's all I have. 8 numbers. It's called we do
Wow.
what's called coordinate remote viewing. I get a set of numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have to sit down with my pen and my paper, a whole bunch of paper, and I get those numbers, and I have to, we've trained a long time to learn how to do this. But you go into theta, basically you're like pulling in all this information out of the matrix, I guess you can call it. You have to get your mind right to do all this kind of stuff. And when I locate, all the information starts flooding in, and I'm writing it all down and charting it out on my papers. Eventually, usually a lot of times if it's a missing person or it's any kind of an individual involved, I will locate them. And when I find them in their environment, I get in their head. I do what's called a deep mind probe. And I'll ask them, according to the data that I've already gotten, I'll say, I think this person's been killed. There's been a gunshot. There's something, they're hidden, they're buried somewhere. And so I ask them, what happened to you? Where are you? And they tell me. And they'll tell me what happened. It may not be direct, but it's like they're speaking in parables, half the time, which is a little frustrating. But it's also gives you clues as to where they really are, and so it's a lot to take on emotionally. That's why it's so important to protect your energy.
Yep.
It's any kind of empath knows we have to protect our energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And do you ground down after and do all that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. I have to shut it all down. You open it up and then you shut it down.
Yeah. So I was taught, I guess it's been how long ago? A good 10 years now. I don't know if you know of Sarah Lamos. She's on a couple of the ghost shows now, but I took her very first classes, and over the last 10 years, she has helped me. So I learned about, how I was taught. It's literally you picture like a light switch, you turn it off, turn it on, so that's always worked for me.
Yeah, that's that's kind of what I do. I light a candle and then I blow it out. Okay. That's like part of the process, actually. It's just a good way. I do that when I read tarot cards too. It's, you open it up and then you shut it down. But there's other things I do too, but that's like my main go-to.
Yeah. Okay. So I've had people ask me today, they want to hear, here he says, what we want. They want to know about your remote viewing of the LBL.
Oh, my remote viewing?
Yeah, of the
LBL. Absolutely.
Talking about it.
Yeah. It's that was a shocker for me, actually, because I didn't know what the LBL was at all.
Right.
I'm a Bigfoot field researcher. I've never delved into Dogman before. Okay. Until the LBL. Right. And, I do a show with Texas Front Porch. And so Tex had been nudging me to look into Dogman attacks because he'd had some real Dogman attacks. Or not a Dogman attacks, but Dogman experiences. Okay. When he was growing up as a teenager. And so he said, I believe it was him. He was like, why don't we do the LBL? And I was like, okay. And so there was a story of a family who it was alleged. There was a family of 4 that had been brutally attacked and killed by dogmen, allegedly. Okay. And at the LBL. And so I was like, well, we're just going to see if it's real. Okay. Like, first of all, I'm going to tap in and see if this is real. And so I sat down one day and I started looking at it, and all this information just started coming out. And here's the thing: I had not really looked into it very much. I just knew the gist of the story. Okay, that in around 1982, a family of 4 was in their camper or something, and they had been accosted by a dog man. Okay, and I knew that there were people that claimed that it happened, but there was no record of it. Okay. It was like it had been scrubbed from the history book, from the media, from whatever. There was no trace. Which, by the way, with all of my targets that I've done, all the shows that I've done so far, there's a pattern of government cover-ups. Okay. A lot of things really happen, but then it's all covered up.
Right.
Okay. So I knew that could be an option, but I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Okay. So I, like I said, I was going to poke around to see if this thing had actually happened. And yes, it happened. Yes, there was a family of 4. Okay. I only picked up on 4 people. I know that people say that there was and I've heard the interview person. Yes. I've heard his interview. He's very convincing, and maybe he was there, but I did not detect him in the environment. So I can't say he was there. Doesn't mean he wasn't. It just means that I never picked up on him. And I usually pick up on everything in the environment.
Yeah.
Okay. But so I did see that it was, the family had pulled into some kind of like campsite, and there were 2, I think the dad and the son were outside doing something outside, and the mom and there was a little girl. They were in the camper, and yeah, I see Cryptid Villain here. He knows what the LBL is. But yeah, but it wasn't just one dog man. There were dog men that accosted this family. There were at least 2.
At least
there were at least 2. Yeah.
Wow.
And they didn't look, and when I actually did a deep mind probe of one of the victims, actually, because I was trying to figure out what they experienced. Okay. And it was very hard for me to do all this because it was very brutal, and they were all killed brutally, all 4 of them.
Wow.
And but what they were telling me was that they looked like men, but they weren't men. They looked like what I was seeing was like a hyena. It looked like it was a dog man, I guess you could call it, but they looked more like a kind of like a hyena type, I guess, with like not a whole lot of hair on them, and their ears were sticking up, and they had these huge like mouths like a hyena, and they were out for blood. Yeah. So I did remote view that, and not only did I pick up on that incident, and a lot of what they say about the story, if you've heard the story, is what I saw. Okay. Really? So yes. And I was so disturbed by all of it. I contacted Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project. I believe it was the next day, or it might have been the same day. I don't even remember, but it was very soon after I did that. And I kind of told him what I had done. Like I had remote viewed it, and I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
But he immediately started sending me videos of like a documentary that they had made that had eyewitness accounts, and it lined up with my data. And so, and I had sent him my data too that day. So it was all kind of a shocker, but here's more, but wait, there's more. There was not just that one attack. There were multiple attacks, multiple fatalities at that park.
Wow.
And they were all being covered up, and they've happened over a span of many years.
So has there been anything recent that you know of out there?
I have not remote viewed anything recent out there, so I don't know. I can't tell you for sure if there's anything recent. Well, I do. Well, I can't say I've remote viewed it. I've been asked to remote view it, but the bow hunter out there, I have not remote viewed that. I honestly don't like remote viewing things that are super recent because it's very upsetting to the families.
Yeah.
Especially when I put it on a show. Now, I did that last week. I did some attacks that were...
I watched that one.
Yeah, they were classified as unspecified animal attacks or packs of wild dogs. And the only reason that I looked into that is because it's so prevalent right now. And there's a lot of attacks happening that are packs of wild dogs. And it just doesn't... I've never seen a pack of wild dogs running around killing people that much.
So quick question on the LBL attacks. Were they being stalked for a while and they didn't know it? Or was it something that they just came across them and like, hey, we're going to eat them?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, a little bit of both. Okay. I think the family had just gotten there. And
Okay.
they had not been there very long, but they had encroached on the territory of those beasts, and so
Okay.
yeah, they had crossed into the territory of these dogmen. Okay,
Wow.
and the thing about the dogmen is that I was picking up that they are native to that area, and they may or may not come from some facility, like they're living underground
Wow.
there, and there's also Bigfoots in the area as well. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do the Bigfoot and the dogmen get along out there, or are they?
You know, I didn't see that they did. However, if you listen to the interview, or actually Martin Grove, it's on the screen right now. Cryptidville is talking about Martin Grove's experience back in 1993, and Martin spoke at the Dogman Conference at the Paranormal Roundtable a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he was giving his encounter. He has a personal encounter, and he believes that he might have been the last person to see the bow hunter alive. And see, the bow hunter is another story. People don't know, it's been covered up as well. And it's like, well, we don't even know if that really happened.
I did listen to his story and where he said, you know, like when they took him back, that so I get that, where like you said, another cover up. I mean,
it's a bunch of cover-ups. What I find really interesting is that a lot of the guys that are and ladies that are involved with the North American Dogman Project and have had a lot of experiences are law enforcement. Okay. And they're former law enforcement officers and military. I mean, a lot of the guys on my teams, I'm on 3 different teams. Most of the people on my teams are former military or current military or Department of Defense or something, firefighters, EMTs. And so it's interesting that so many people in this field, in that profession, choose to be so interested in Bigfoot and Dogman.
Right. Exactly. Peter asks, he said, what, if you can answer this, it's up to you. What order were the family killed in, and were the ones last killed aware that their relatives had already been attacked?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a little sensitive, but yeah, I mean, the 2 males were killed first and the 2 females were killed last.
Wow. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's all I can say right there.
Yeah. Well, and you know, as far as like the cover-ups, you know, like where's like all these victims' families, you know, I would want closure, you know, are they telling them it was just, you know, a bear that attacked them or their family and killed them, or what are they telling their families, you know?
Unspecified animal attacks, probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
Wild dogs. That's usually the go-to story, is a pack of wild dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It looks like Cryptidville says the most recent thing that's happened this year, a soldier from Fort Campbell was killed in a car accident on a road in an area of high activity. So that's interesting too. So that whole story really intrigues me. And I also watched one where there was, you know, supposed to be, you know, a survivor out of that. And I honestly, at the time, I didn't know how to take him. Part of his story was credible, but then I remember him talking about, you know, like his mom never talked anything about it, or, you know, I mean, if it was my kid, my God, we're getting help for trauma, PTSD.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
exactly.
That was kind of throwing the red flags for me personally.
Yeah. Okay. Now here's another thing. Like, I'm not saying one way or another that I'm not sure. I've heard the story too. He's very convincing, and he might have been there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't pick up on him, but we also, and I've learned in all my years of I never went public with my research. Okay. I was in the field doing Bigfoot field research for at least 10 years before I ever spoke publicly about it. Yeah. Okay. I just went public last year, a year ago. And that was because a friend of mine asked me to speak at a conference in North Georgia, a small one. Yeah. And somehow it ballooned into getting shows, and now I'm here. I don't know how it happened, but it just kind of happened. So I never meant for this to happen. I didn't go looking for it.
Right.
But, you know, there are people who, and this is part of the reason I didn't go public, is because there are people that are always going to try to discredit your research and what you do. And there are plants. Okay. And I'm not saying he's one at all, but I'm saying, like, you just have to be very careful about
Mm-hmm.
who you believe, and it's up to you. Like I don't believe, I think fact checking is kind of silly myself, but
Yeah.
you do have to use your gut and go with your intuition on
Right.
things.
Right.
Okay. And so use your discernment when you hear stories from people, because there
Yeah.
are, and I'm not saying he is at all. I'm not, but I'm
Mhm.
saying there
Right.
are, in my experience, there are people that will be on the path here that are going to try to throw things off a little bit.
Right. Yep.
So
I
yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, I mean, my personal beliefs, but yet for me again to say it did, that he wasn't there, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But there's just a lot of weird things to the story.
Yeah. Well, just
So
go with your gut.
we'll
Go
leave
with
it
your
at
gut.
that. Yeah. We'll
I
leave
mean,
it at
the whole story is hard. It's hard to comprehend all of it. It's
Yeah.
but like I said, Jody Cook had sent me a video, like a documentary, and it had a deathbed confession of a fish and wildlife guy that was there working, and he witnessed firsthand a couple
Wow.
get killed there, and I had picked up on many attacks there, so it lined up with my data.
Was it the same
Uh-huh.
dogman that was killing, or was there a large group?
There's a lot of them. Yeah, there's not just one or
Wow.
two. There's a lot, and they're all different. They look different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't all look the same. So
Wow, that's crazy. Can you tell us on some of the other places you've remote viewed on and kind of,
yeah, I mean, I've remote viewed everything from. What are some recent ones? Let's see the. Oh my gosh, what are the names of those? Like I did the Dyatlov Pass. That was my first one that I did on. This is for my show. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was an alleged Russian Yeti attack. Okay.
Yeah.
And and I saw pretty much right off the bat that it was not a Russian Yeti. And I started thinking it was actually military involvement, and it was a military operation. And those people were actually, they kind of stumbled onto, they were trespassing. They got off course, and they were taken out basically by the military.
Wow. That's I know what story you're talking about. There was like 6 or 8 people that were.
There were a lot. Yeah, I think there were 9 Russian hikers, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
At least 9, maybe more. I can't remember the number, but
and I guess maybe for their military it was easier to blame it on the Yeti,
Well, it was very interesting because at the time I didn't know a whole lot about it, and they were found in different sections. So there was like 2 guys found in one area, and then 3 people found in another area, and then 4 were found months later in a ravine. Okay, and their bodies were all in different stages of decomposition, and they were wearing different. Some of them had on like just underwear, some of them had on full clothes, and they were like wearing other people's clothes. It was weird. Okay, but they had all obviously ran out of their tent. They cut through their tent in the middle of the night or whenever. I picked up as the middle of the night. But what I was getting from so what I did was I remote viewed like the entire scene, like what happened, and then I remote viewed each section of bodies that were found. Okay, and what happened to each of them. And so it was all different, but I was getting the same message from all of them. It was they were scared. They were chased out by something that came from the sky. Okay, so it was some kind of something that was being dropped from the sky, like umbrellas. Okay, I think it was some sort of some way for the military to see them and to light up the area, and it scared them. They took off running. Now, the very last group though that was found in the ravine, their bodies were mutilated, like you see mutilated cows.
Wow.
One woman, her tongue was removed.
So I wonder why the military would do something that morbid.
Okay, well, this is where it gets juicy. Okay.
Okay.
I picked up on ET involvement. Okay, and this was in 1959. This was around the same time that we were having like Eisenhower was allegedly striking deals with the aliens for abductions and things like that. Russia was doing it. I don't know. It was all kind of weird. But fast forward to a couple of months ago, I was looking online at some stuff, and this happened in the Ural Mountains. And I'm looking at some article, and they're talking about how there's an entrance to inner Earth in the Ural Mountains. And I thought, well, dadgummit, that might be a connection there. I don't know. Who knows? I didn't pick up on that at the time, but I wasn't looking for it, of course. So who knows?
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
it's really wild. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've done a whole lot of targets. So I've done the LBL. I've done the Dark Pyramid in Alaska. That's a cool one.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, that was really odd. It was some kind of there are reports that there's this gigantic pyramid. It's like ancient.
Mhm.
They say there are pyramids all over our world.
Right.
And for this one, I brought in my friend Tanya Braddock, the Existential Empath. She came on my show, and she remote viewed it as well. The interesting thing is, we came up with some of the same data, of
Oh,
course.
Wow.
But we both picked up that this was made out of obsidian. Okay, it's this huge pyramid, and it's top secret. Okay, and it's some sort of power source or something. I don't know. I can't remember all the details on it. I have to get out my folder for that one. But it's top secret, and people aren't really allowed to talk about it. So we were wondering if we were going to get that proverbial knock at our door after that show.
Right.
But that's an interesting one. So
I see. I also watched one of yours where you remote viewed like Frogman or something.
Frogman, yeah, the Loveland Frogman. That was a weird one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a story that back, I guess that was in the 1950s as well. Gosh, a lot of weird stuff started happening in the 1950s here in the US. But a traveling salesman was riding down the road and was riding by under a bridge. I guess this is in Ohio. And he was in the middle of the night, and he thought that when I remote viewed it, he thought he was seeing some sort of like a mannequin or like a Christmas decorations. Okay. But it was actually three like amphibious looking frogmen on the side of the road. And one of them had what he described as a magic wand in its hand, and sparks were shooting out of it.
Wow.
So
it's like a real life frog and toad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. Okay, it was super weird. So I looked into that, and I was picking up on weird stuff like Project Montauk. Okay, so here's the thing with remote viewing, time is like, I guess, relative, or like it doesn't even matter, honestly. Like time doesn't make any sense when you're remote viewing in a lot of ways. When it comes to stuff like time travel, I've even remote viewed a Mandela effect before. One of the Mandela effects that I noticed. There's a whole lot of CERN involved in a lot of this, y'all. So if y'all know what CERN is, the Hadron Collider in Switzerland. Well, there's actually a bunch of CERN's Hadron Colliders all over the world. Okay. Wow. And I've picked up on at least one or two of them here in the South. Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to say there may be one in Georgia, and there's probably one in Tennessee that I know of.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
that's scary, really, when you think about it,
Very scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're just like kind of putting us in different dimensions and like switching us back and forth to, I don't know, just changing timelines. Okay. Yeah. So that's scary. Yeah. But yeah, with the frogmen, they were okay. I pick up a lot on chimeras and our government doing projects. Like black projects, I think is what they call them, like underground in these facilities and stuff. Like Dogman's a part of that. These frogmen, though, they were part of some kind of like Project Montauk stuff, which wasn't until the 1980s. But these things were the ones that I were looking into were from the 70s. But they were time traveling and stuff. I know it doesn't make sense. Yeah, but they were part of that project, so maybe they were just going back a couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It all sounds crazy. But
yeah.
It's fun looking into it.
Yeah, that's why I'm so intrigued by you and what you do. There's a lot of stuff out there that has a lot of unanswered questions, but Yeah.
Well, and like a couple weeks ago, I also did the Coral Castle. If you guys are familiar with Coral Castle down in Florida.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. It's this little guy. He's like 5 feet tall, 100 pounds. He created like this huge, it was like megaliths and stuff of coral.
Yeah.
And he made like a little cat. They call it Coral Castle. And here, the interesting thing about him was that he's so small. He's a little guy moving all these megaliths by himself and carving all this coral. I think it was called oolite oolite something, whatever.
Mhm.
Limestone. Okay.
Yeah.
And but he was doing all this at night, and so people were suspicious of it. This is an area of very high strangeness, anyways. But excuse me, but he okay. So the guy was a Freemason, and he was a Mason. All
Mhm.
right. He had knowledge of how to lift heavy objects when he first came to America. Okay, he was from Europe. He came to America. He worked for a logging company, and his job was to help move gigantic stumps. Okay,
Wow.
huge like redwood tree stumps, like that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Okay, so he had the knowledge of how to move heavy stuff. Uh,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but he was using like primitive tools, and he used his knowledge
Right.
of that. But the thing about it is he had knowledge in the occult. Okay,
Oh wow.
secret knowledge.
Mhm.
Yes. And so he was using ancient sound vibrational technology, frequencies, sound, all that kind of stuff. And what he would tell people was that, well, if what I'm doing is the same strategy, the same method as that the ancient Egyptians used to
Yeah.
make the pyramids. And if
Wow.
I can do it, so can you, is what he would tell people.
Mhm.
So,
I know that
yeah,
I know that they had a report where kids would go and try to go and like sneak on the property and stuff at night because he'd only
yeah.
work at night. And there was one report where they didn't know if the kids were just, maybe smoked a little too much of something or what, but they said that they saw the stones
Mhm.
levitating and
Wow.
Yeah.
moving up in the,
You know,
I mean, it's just crazy.
yeah, it's really cool because he did have ways, like he was using magnets. Okay, so
Mhm.
he had some kind of he was using magnets, he was using pulley systems and motors and turbines and things. And there's something
Mhm.
there called the flywheel that you can see in the museum today that he was using. And all this is just like very primitive technology, and it's totally, it can make sense. He could use all that to move those, actually, if you
Yeah.
really, if you know how to do masonry and stuff like that.
Right.
But he had the added element of using the sound technology and that levitation technology of sound frequencies and things like that.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
yeah, I know those kids had reported that they were the megaliths, the big rocks were moving in like
Mhm.
hydrogen balloons or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they thought it was magic, and it was
Mhm.
magic, actually,
I
if you want
mean,
to consider
if
it
you
that.
if you think about it, I mean, what we would consider magic, it is kind of magical. I
Yeah,
mean,
Mhm.
totally. It was
I don't
Yeah.
totally
think there's
magic.
anything wrong with calling it that.
Yeah. No, I'm totally down for that. It was magic. So
Mhm.
he was like the David Copperfield of his time, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there in person?
No, I have not
No.
actually.
No.
No, but Tanya, my friend who remote viewed the Black Pyramid with me, she came on and remote viewed that with me too, the Coral Castle, and she used to
Mhm.
live down there, and she's been
Oh,
there.
cool. Cool.
And some of my friends that are here, that do shows, and or some of
Mhm.
my friends from paranormal stuff online, they had been there, and they had actually encouraged me. Like my friend Marty from her son, she and her son have shows here on YouTube and stuff. And so
Mhm.
she asked me to remote view that. And so I was like, oh, I got to. And I just had my friend Eric on from We're Party down in Florida. And
Mhm.
yeah, Marty is the Nana Boss Continuum, by the way. So on YouTube, I'm going to give her a plug. And also Eric from War Party Paranormal, give him a plug. And her son Matt, Supernatural Spectrum, give him a plug.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah,
You'll have to
they all
send them to me
subscribe.
so I can follow them.
Yes, yes, they're amazing, every one of them. But they've all been to Coral Castle, and it was something that they were really wanting me to look into, so I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What can you tell us any of like of good positive things that you enjoyed remote viewing?
Oh my gosh, what have I done? Something that was fun? Let me think.
Yeah, that something that
Just fun stuff. I mean, just
yeah.
the funner side of stuff, like the Mandela effect. That was actually kind of fun.
Mhm.
Okay, because I was totally freaked out by Chick-fil-A. Okay. I had always known, like, I used to eat at Chick-fil-A all the time. When I
Yeah.
was pregnant with my son, I didn't tell anybody, but I swear I went to Chick-fil-A every day, and I got a spicy chicken sandwich with some waffle
Mhm.
fries. And I ate that
Oh,
every day.
yes.
That was my thing. I ate that almost every day. until the day before I had my son. I was eating
Wow.
those. I'm surprised he didn't turn out to be a chicken sandwich. Okay?
Yeah.
But I used to go there so much, and it was spelled to me. I remember it being CHIK filet. Okay,
Yes, I do
Chick-fil-A
too.
with a K.
Yep. Yep.
And I have a degree in English literature from college, and I was like, I love how you can, make it cute. Like, it's not CHICK, it's CHIK. Like, how clever is that? I always thought that's so clever.
Yeah.
And then one day, out of the blue, it was just CHICK.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, when did they change that? And it was kind of upsetting. I was like, well, that's weird. Why they changed that name? And it was the week that they turned CERN back on. And I had just done a show with Frank Jacob. If anybody knows who Frank Jacob is, he talks about he's a film director, and he creates films, and he is real big on Project Looking Glass. Okay, and the guardians of the Looking Glass, and that's time travel technology and timeline technology that our government and our religious leaders use and things like that. So he was on my show. We were just talking about CERN, and it was around that same week that Chick-fil-A's name changed, and I was looking it up, and it was like, no, it's always been CHICK filet.
See, I'm with you though. I do remember a CHIK.
Well, okay, so people either remember it being CHIK or CHIC filet with a C instead of a K.
That would be more like sheep,
Chick. Chick, right?
Yeah.
So, but then there was a lot of people that said no, it was always CHICK.
Wow.
And so, but there were just too many Mandela effects adding up, and so I had to look into it. I did find that it was partially from CERN being turned on, and it was a timeline shift. Some of us that were on one certain timeline were shifted over to another timeline.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
creepy. That's really creepy.
It happens.
Yeah,
apparently.
Peter asked another question to you. He said, "Have you ever viewed the Summer Wells case?"
No, I've never heard of that.
I haven't
Not
either.
sure what that is.
Yeah, Peter, if you don't mind, elaborate a little bit on what that is.
I can write it down and look it up, though. I don't know what it is. Yeah,
I'd be curious to know. So I did watch your show last Friday, and about the people, the dog attacks.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting.
Thank you.
And I've never, I thought you would come out and say dog man or something, but that was a shocker to me, I have to say, because I've never heard of like anything like that.
The zombie bear. You know how hard that was for me to have to go on air and say that in front of the world? It was like, I think it was a zombie bear. I don't know what this is, y'all.
Right.
Yeah. So this Sunday night, my friend Barry Littleton, who is an amazing paranormal researcher, he comes on my show pretty often, and he's like my go-to person when it comes to paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
But he made a connection with the Dewey Lake Monster. Okay. And I think that's out of Michigan. I'm not sure. But it's it sounded just like what I had described. And a lot of these like Sasquatch, there's a lot of what we call mutant Sasquatches. And that is anything from like a Gugway to a Janusqua. Okay. Those are like the real violent types.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that on Sunday night on my show at Spaced Out Radio. Barry's coming on to talk about that because he was making connections, because I didn't know what I was looking at, and I could only describe it, but I couldn't say it was a dog man. I couldn't say it was a Bigfoot. It was just something else. It was something weird, but it was not a pack of dogs, that killed those people. But I couldn't tell you what it was, but what I kept hearing, and it was zombie bear. So it was, I felt kind of silly talking about that, but it is what it is. I don't sugarcoat anything, and I'm like, well, it's y'all can think I'm crazy. It's fine, but
No, I don't think
we'll go with the information. And so then Barry chimed in the next day and was like, Jessica, I made this connection. This is exactly what you described is what we have up in, the Dewey Lake Monster and the Janusqua and the Gugway. And so on Sunday, he's going to come on my show. We're going to dive into all that, and we're going to break it down a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I'll share it on ours, and I'll definitely listen in, because I think that's pretty interesting. They said that it's about a little girl in Tennessee that went missing.
Oh, that's sad.
So Yeah, she went missing, left her, looks like she went missing from home one night and was never seen again. You know, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like missing kids and not just kids, but people in general.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of cryptids have anything to do with a lot of those, kind of like that missing 411 or?
I think maybe occasionally they do, but in a lot of the cases that I look into, Bigfoots and cryptids get blamed for a lot of stuff that humans do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think a lot of times it's just really bad humans doing this stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Tamara says things just didn't add up, and that she thinks
so
her mom might have had something to do with it. Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
Well, that's just what Jessica was saying, is that, it's sad because I think sometimes we want answers and we'll go with any answer. And, I think sometimes too, we don't want to believe that a mother could do that, or a father or a relative. So it is, if a mother or father could do that, it is like the boogeyman in a sense. So we would maybe think something out in the woods or something like that. But I think Jessica's right. I think that cryptids do get a lot of credit for things that they did not really partake in, or maybe they were there at the scene, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily did anything.
Right. Yeah, it's really rare actually for a cryptid to attack somebody. And all the things that I've looked into, it doesn't say it doesn't happen, because they do attack. But a lot of times, like I remote viewed the Portlock, Alaska case, where there was the whole town that got ran out. I mean, there were at least 30 people that dead, their bodies washed up to shore, missing body parts, things like that. And I looked into that, and yes, it was a clan of Sasquatch up there, but they were mad. Like, these people had come and encroached on their territory. It's always a territory thing, by the way. And they had what they called the kill zone. There was like a line drawn in the sand for these Sasquatch up there. They're like, you cross this line, we're going to eat you. And they were actually eating these people and tearing their body parts off and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, well, but also, in addition to the Black Pyramid that's up there, they have something called the Alaska Triangle. Okay, and so that is an area that's shaped like a triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
But the animals are all animals, all predators, in the bears, even the Sasquatch. Everything is more violent against humans in that triangle. Now you have to take it into consideration. HARP, okay, all these energy weapons and the weather manipulation and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that's stationed up there. So that's high frequencies. And so it's got to be driving these animals crazy. It's like dog whistles constantly up there, and things that maybe the human ears can't hear, but we're on a different frequency than these animals. And they're on a different frequency than us. So who's to say they're not constantly being bombarded by all this loud noise and high pitches? And so it makes them more mad.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I know. So I was born and raised in Washington State, on the west side, up in what they call Bigfoot County, I guess is what they call it. But in that area, the zoo in Seattle, and I think I had mentioned this on another podcast too, that they got rid of the elephant exhibit because the elephants were having neurological issues, because they could feel the highway through their feet and they couldn't communicate, and you could see them swaying their heads and stuff because they couldn't communicate. So I mean, you think of like other animals, and we can't, who would have thought that the freeway would have been doing damage to a zoo that they have. It's a beautiful zoo. They have huge amounts of property to roam. But so in Alaska, if there's areas that they're doing things that maybe humans can't hear, who's to say that it's not making animals we know about, animals we don't know about, really pissed.
Yeah.
Well, and also on that Portlock, I'd watched, I don't know, that TV show was out. Was it Expedition Bigfoot or something up there? I don't know.
Well, they had Alaska Killer Bigfoot up there. Ron Moorhead was on that, and I actually had him on my show, and it was so exciting to get to talk to him about that. Yeah.
So where they had talked about, there was like I don't know, did you watch that show at all? But support,
well, I just got Discovery Plus a couple weeks ago, and
okay.
I've watched a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
I wasn't real excited with it, but I'm just going to say
Yeah. Well,
it wasn't that exciting.
did you pick up on anything? They thought there was like a demonic area, portal, something in there. Did you pick up on that?
No, I didn't see that part of the show. I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of
Yeah.
it, and I was like, my remote viewing date is way more exciting than this show. So, but I'm going to finish it. I just haven't finished it yet.
Yeah.
But I did pick up, actually, okay, this is very, very crazy. It's like a lot of times I do pick up on interdimensional portal kind of stuff going on. Up there, I didn't. Okay.
Really?
Up there, I picked up more on these things are just there. They've always been there. They are like solid. I'm not going to say they're more like primate type because they're huge. These are like gigantic Bigfoots up there. I got like the biggest one, like 12 feet tall. Absolutely. They're still there. Yeah.
Wow.
They're there. They're still in the area. And a lot of the locals, they still don't go there.
Yeah.
And Ron Moore had even told me, he said, there's something wrong with that place. He's like, he doesn't go there. He didn't feel okay there.
Wow.
It's still very dangerous. Yeah.
And they and stuff there, I believe. If I remember right.
I don't know. You know what? Maybe they show that on TV. I don't know if they camp there or not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they'll be like, it's TV. You still got to put in the whole aspect of it being a TV show, and it's a lot of they may be flying out of there at night. Who knows? I don't know. I didn't ask. I did not ask. I wouldn't stay there. I mean, if I was heavily armed and I was surrounded by a bunch of heavily armed security guards, and they were awake while I was asleep at night, I might stay there. Okay. Yeah, but otherwise I would never go there.
Right.
No, not knowing what I know.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I have watched the show. So, and I just kind of wondered, I've wondered about that, is it really a true, aggressive Bigfoot? But
it is. It's real. That's real. Now,
are they so aggressive there? Do they say?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about the show. I know that Ron Moore had said that it's not a good feeling there. He said.
Wow.
He said it's still very dangerous.
Wow. That's scary stuff. What was your scariest remote view that you've ever done that you're like, okay, I'm done? What was the worst?
I mean, the worst one was the Portlock, probably. I mean, not Portlock, excuse me, LBL. The LBL. That was probably the worst. I mean, I've had a lot of them that I didn't know what I was remote viewing, and it was the missing persons cases. I don't like those. I mean, I like them because I'm helping locate people, but it has an effect on me because these are people who've been murdered and their bodies are buried and all that kind of stuff. So I got to say, like, those are the real life missing people's cases are pretty tough, actually.
Yeah. Do you feel like the dogmen and the that like the ones at the LBL, that they were made mean, or that they were just, that was their area and they were just territorial over it, or like they were really out for blood?
Both, all of it. Yeah. They were, I think that as far as the dogman goes, they say that a lot of these dogmen are collared and chipped. Okay. Our government is watching them. They watch their migration. They know where they're coming from. A lot of these, they have facilities underground where these things are kept. I mean, I got the two, I believe those 2 dogmen actually, I was getting, they had either escaped a facility or they were let out of a facility.
Wow. Were they, do you know if they were captured after, just because like, they killed something, let's get them?
I didn't pick up on that. I don't know. I didn't pick up on that at all. I mean, there have been reports, like someone had said, oh, there's one that was dead in a tree and all that. I didn't pick up on that. So I don't know. Yeah. But I pick up also that it's almost like they're let out to feed on whatever they want to eat. So I just have to say, like, if nothing else, I just hope the people that hear these stories and hear our podcasts and our shows take heed and know that this is a real danger. Okay. And just be aware of your surroundings and be careful about where you take your kids on the weekends. Okay. I have a kid. I have a son, a little kid. Okay. And I like to go to national parks and stuff, and we do we do Bigfoot field research in some of the national parks and state parks and things like that. And sometimes, and just be careful. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful.
Yeah. My husband, we have horses, and he goes down to Arkansas to Caney Mountain and a lot of remote places and rides the horses. And I tell him all the time, you need to be packing. And he calls all this stuff, even the ghost stuff, my freaky shit is what he says. And I've never seen anything out there, and it's all safe. And I told him, I said, well, they've seen you. I guarantee it. They've seen you. So
oh yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, they watch. They definitely watch. Yeah, you know what? Crystal is talking about the Oak Ridge Lab. That is the lab that works with CERN out of Switzerland in Tennessee. Absolutely, that's 100% what I was picking up on last week for my show. And the Oak Ridge Lab is called. I don't know if it's called Oak Ridge Laboratory or some kind of laboratory, anyways. But it's there, and. They were working on the Philadelphia project back in the day at this lab, where they were developing the atomic bomb, and allegedly that's where they created the atomic bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima, I think.
Hiroshima,
okay. Yeah. So, but it had something to do with the creatures that were attacking those people in eastern Tennessee. Okay, yeah. It was like a county over from where that happened. Yeah.
Wow. That's scary. Yeah. That's really scary.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Peter, I can answer this question for you. He asked, were the LBL family killed to beat or just killed because they came into their territory? She had said earlier that both. They were, both. So.
Yeah. And, okay, so a lot of times on my show that I do on Fridays, I don't always disclose all of the information because it's very gory and it's sensitive and it could get my channel shut down. Okay.
Right.
And, but I do have a Patreon where like I do put all my data there if anybody wants to see it. But there is one thing that I'm also finding on a lot of these dogman attacks is that they are out for blood. And, there's a certain substance that you get when, before you kill a human or whatever, that when your adrenaline's going and it's been in the news and the elite like it, that's what they're going for.
Really?
Okay. According to my data. Yeah.
Wow. That's
I guess you'd call it adrenalized blood or something, I guess. I don't know.
And that's what they're
If I say the name, we might get in trouble. So.
Yeah, well, don't say it.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. It just, all this stuff, like I said, just fascinates me. I mean, Aaron, you're a believer in the cryptids, and living in Washington, though, you never saw anything, you said.
No, I never saw anything. I mean, I knew a couple people that had experiences. I know I was scared of it. Like I wouldn't go walk out in the woods at night because you don't know what's out there. My grandfather was right. I was just like, nope, no thanks.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was actually he was a park ranger, national park ranger.
Oh wow.
And so him and my dad and his brothers traveled all over the country because he would be stationed, I guess, at different national parks. And I would go traipsing around in the woods with my grandpa. And, he'd do surveying and all sorts of random things. And I remember asking him if Bigfoot was real. And he told me his response was just, these woods are really, really big. And if they can't find a bear that dies from natural natural causes, how are they going to find other things? And just that, animals are meant to hide. And that's just, that's the way it is. And he also was a scientist, and he discovered he actually discovered a beetle. He traveled the whole country looking for this dang beetle, and he found it that, was never discovered. So, I mean, if he could find a stinking beetle,
wow,
and find this species that, a bug that didn't exist before. I mean, his theory was that there's other things out there.
Yeah.
Whether they're big or whether they're small, it doesn't matter because the big things can make themselves very, very small if they need to be. And, either way. So that's just kind of how he always saw it. And he was a very intelligent man. And very, I don't know, he spent his entire life out in the woods, and all over the country.
Yeah.
So,
and I've heard reports of Bigfoot being aggressive, and I've heard of them of, just walking away. So I guess in my mind, they're, I guess, kind of like people. There's good people, there's bad people. And
totally.
There's good Bigfoot, there's bad Bigfoot,
Oh yeah, they get angry, and a common theme with the remote viewing that I do and in the research that we do out in the field is that you start walking into their territory, they don't want you there, and they'll let you know. Right. Hopefully they don't eat you. Okay.
So like tree structures and stuff like that. Do you believe that's their way of keeping you out? Saying, hey,
I think it's marking their territory. I mean, it doesn't keep people out usually, but it is a territory marker, in my opinion. Yeah. So I mean, the tree bends and the X's, and and a lot of times they'll lean sticks up on trees, and that kind of is a symbol of what clans are there and how many people are. I say people, but how many Sasquatches are in that area. That's what some people believe. I mean, I can't say that's 100% true, but that's what a lot of people think.
Yeah. So, with your remote viewing, is that what you've kind of picked up on? With
I've never remote viewed the stick stuff. I mean, we've experienced a lot of it, but I've never really remote viewed it, like what the meaning is behind it.
I also feel like footprints, they're super intelligent. So it's like they're leaving it there for a purpose.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
But,
yes.
To let you know, hey, I'm here, so go away.
Oh yeah.
And
maybe they want you to know they're there sometimes. They're not always hiding. And the most activity, I'm not saying the most activity, but a lot of times when we're at base camp, I like to put my tent way far away from everybody just in case I snore, okay, or something. So I will be out there, by myself, and it's all fun and games until it's really late at night and I have to walk all by myself all the way down to my tent alone and go, but it's fine. I'm pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I'll be out there by myself, away from the group. And, after we all go to bed and people start snoring, if you just stay up and you listen, that's when the Bigfoots will come in and start encircling your camp and start whooping and whistling and triangulating. And they're right there in your camp a lot of times. And it's hard to sleep at that point.
Right. I can only imagine. So September 23rd and 24th, we have an event called Fall into the Supernatural that we're putting on. And we have D.A. Roberts coming. And he's doing, we're calling it a Sasquatch hunt, but we're not really hunting or, nothing like that. But do you have any advice for us? DA's thinking we're going to sit around, the campfire and kind of maybe talk about it, try to call them into us. What would your advice be for us to, have some sort of experience?
My advice is to act normal. Okay, just act normal. Go do fun camping stuff, and they will be attracted to you. You don't have to go out looking for them. A lot of times we have more activity in our base camps than we do out when we're hiking around the woods at night. They like to come in and observe, and they will let you know they're there. They will whoop. They'll throw rocks at you. They won't hit you, but they'll throw them. Okay. Just act normal and have fun and be loud. You don't have to be quiet. Just be loud. And when they're there, kind of ignore it, but acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. Look at somebody in the eyes and be like, "Do you hear that?" But don't make a big deal about it.
Okay.
That sounds a lot like when we do paranormal investigations, when we're trying to get a lot of the EVPs and stuff. Sometimes just sitting there and being so still and quiet and everything, and asking maybe a couple questions, you won't get a whole lot of response. But sometimes with certain spirits, we'll be just having a conversation and just talking, and you'll get a lot more interaction. And and I think it's because it feels maybe sometimes more safe. Yeah.
So, and I've also heard before we go, we should tell them, we're coming out here, we're meaning no harm type thing. Is that something true that you would suggest, or would you?
Yeah, well, you don't even have to do that, because they will absolutely pick up on your intentions the minute you set foot out there. They know your intentions before you get there.
Okay.
And so it's all about your intention. Just go. Not. I know that my name is the Cryptid Huntress. I just got that name this past few months. Okay, I'm Jessica. Okay, and I don't hunt Bigfoot. Everybody. Okay, I'm just. It's just a fun name. So but yes. They know your intentions before you even get there, and it's all about your aura and your intention. So if you go out there with planning on shooting something or whatever,
no, none of that.
They're not going to show up. They're not going to be nice to you either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
but if you go in peace and you just are there just to hang out and just psychically just tune in and be like, hey, I'm here just to hang out and just to get to know you.
Right. Hold on 1 second. I gotta get my dog out of here. Oh, he
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that they can tell your intentions. They can feel that energy. I mean,
Totally.
if they can feel the energy of anger or hate or being scared, I mean, kind of like what you were saying about other creatures that maybe get this adrenaline rush when they eat that adrenaline substance, they can feel
blood.
that. And I think right. And so I think that when you're out there, if you're going to cause harm, they're going to feel that. They can feel that energy. They can feel the stalking, and the predatory senses, that.
Right.
But if you're there to just be a part of the situation, they might. I think that they are more apt to be more interested as opposed to having to protect their families. About it.
And people always say, well, they like women and children. Okay. They're very curious about women and kids. Well, I would never take my son out to where we do research because it's so dangerous out there. And, my team has actually documented a portal and it opened up and we could only see it through FLIR. Okay. And the thermal imaging cameras and 2 people went to go check it out and they were guided over to it and their heat signatures completely disappeared. And then the whole environment changed, they said, and they both had enough wherewithal to walk out. And then after they walked out, it shrunk down and then it moved and it disappeared. So we consider that a portal. Now they couldn't see it with their naked eyes. Okay.
Right.
So that is a huge danger out in the woods for our team. Now we have protocols set up now in case we ever encounter that again. And even if we don't, we don't go anywhere alone when we're out in the woods because it's so dangerous. But there's just so many things that you have to look out for when you're out there. So
do you research the same area, like with the same clan or same group of the Bigfoot? You do.
We do. Yeah, we have several spots. 3 or 4 in particular that we've been researching. I've been researching for almost 12 years. Some of the guys have been researching for 20 or more years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Cool. And so we know the areas like the backs of our hands. Okay. Yeah. So it's we know these areas.
Is it now? I hear of people like gifting them. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because
we don't gift ever. We've never gifted. I mean, maybe some of the guys have in the past, but no, not really. We don't. Not to say I don't think you should do it, but we just don't. Well, here's the thing with my teams. We this is going to sound wild, but we're kind of past the Bigfoot thing. Like we've already established that there's a connection with Bigfoot and Sasquatch out there. There's so much more out in the woods that we acknowledge them, but there's so much more that we're exploring that's unexplored out there. And so like the portals and the ETs out in the woods and the UFOs and all that kind of stuff, we've kind of I don't want to say graduated, but we're kind of graduated, but we still interact with them if they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, do they, I mean, I guess they know when you're there and have you seen them with your eyes?
Yes, I have. Well, I've never seen one up close. I personally have not. Most of my team has. I'm one of the people who has not seen one up close. However, I believe that I have been hit by one that was cloaked, but I can't say for sure that was a Bigfoot. I was being bait. Okay, if everybody knows what bait is. I want to say I volunteered. I like being bait. Okay, because you get a lot of action when you're out in the field. It's really scary, and it is like an adrenaline rush in a way, kind of.
Right.
But you're more prone to getting activity when you put yourself out there by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not very safe, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And so I was being kind of like bait because all the guys were watching me from down at the bottom of the hill through their thermal lenses and their FLIRs.
Yeah.
And I was walking up a hill by myself, and something ran up behind me full speed, and it knocked my legs out from underneath me. And
Wow.
it kept going, and I thought it was one of the guys playing a trick on me.
Yeah.
But there was nothing there. It wasn't a person.
You know,
There's
I had an
nothing.
experience. There's a place out here in Missouri called Lost Valley Lake Resort. And my team, we've done investigations out there for years. And people, you know, it's like kind of like a timeshare.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably been 7 years ago, but we were out ghost hunting around a lake. And there's a lot of Indian, you know, things out there. And you were talking about like the charge. I had something actually come, it was down a hill and charge at me, but I never seen anything. We heard it. It was loud. It was, you know, we expected to see something come out of there, but nothing did. So I don't know. I always thought it was, you know, some sort of ghost or something, but who knows? Maybe it wasn't.
It could have been a Bigfoot. I mean, because that's what I believe that's what that was, but I can't say for certain.
Yeah.
So, and the guys did not see anything through their cameras at all. So there was, but I very clearly felt it and I heard it. So, it was something. It was something.
Something out of this world. That's right. That we know of.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Where we're doing our event in September, you know, I was staying out there and I had a Sasquatch encounter that I didn't even know I had. And I know I told you about it, and Aaron knows about it, but you know, that night it was just that overwhelming feeling of being watched. I was scared. I was truly scared. And, you know, I've done a lot of ghost stuff. I've even done some demonic cases and I was really scared that night. And, another medium, Jessica Potter, you know, she like picked up on it immediately. Like I didn't say anything to her. She's like, tell me what happened over there. And, you know, she's seen my big dog and seen me back into the camper. And I'm like, holy cow, you know, for her to pick up on that. And then she told me, you know, well, that was Bigfoot. They're watching you, you know? So I just found that really fascinating. And ever since then I've been, you know, and that's where we're doing our Sasquatch hunt, you know, that weekend.
Yeah, you guys are going to be in good hands with DA. I can promise you. Yes,
we love DA. He's awesome.
He knows what he's doing
for sure.
He'll keep you safe.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, do you have anything for Jessica?
You know, I've really enjoyed listening too. You know, I'm still learning about a lot of the cryptid stuff. My whole area has always been with mediumship and things like that. I'm born like we're all born, but like done this my whole life pretty much. And so now moving into like the other parts of things, because you know, if you can talk to dead people and see ghosts, I mean, what else isn't out, you know, that we don't know about is out there. So I'm still learning a lot about this, and it was really awesome to hear somebody who has basically both their feet in both ponds. And how that works, because sometimes I feel like and I'm sure that a lot of people maybe can relate to this when you're doing paranormal stuff, but then you're interested in cryptid, you feel like you have to fly back and forth, you know, between two different areas. And you know, I really feel like you shouldn't have to. They're all kind of intertwined because it's all things that we don't know about, and it's all different veils of life and of the present. And you know, so this was really, really interesting, and I'm sure a lot of other people will find the fact that you got your feet in both ponds, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, and I think it's awesome that you were aware that you had psychic abilities from a young age. You know, a lot of people don't understand, you know, why they're seeing dead people and being able to hear things that other people don't hear. So that's awesome. And I think that it's so important that we cultivate and help steer our children into, you know, like I said, I have a kid who's 8, and he experiences a lot of the same things that I do, and
Yeah.
so it's so great to like be able to help him to understand like what he's experiencing and things like that. And I think it's important for this generation, the new generations that are here, to learn remote viewing and things like that, because I think that they are very psychically switched on humans. Yeah.
I
do have
believe
one
so
quick
too. And
question.
my son who's 13, he's the same thing. And years ago when he was about 8 or 9 was when, you know, I never told him about what I did because I didn't want to influence him in any way. And, you know, it was that sad moment where he came to me crying and saying, I hear things, I see things, but I can't see them. You know, I see them, but I can't see them, you know, and stuff like that. And I went, oh, well, okay, we need to have a talk, you know, and I've been able to over the years cultivate that, and he's been able to use it for such good things. And I think that a lot of parents need to acknowledge that too, and acknowledge that I think that we have a lot of very, very, very gifted children between the ages of 8 and 15 right now. It seems to be like that group of kids is they're very gifted. They have abilities that are stronger than mine. I'll tell you that.
Mine too. Yeah. My son's going to blow me out of the water with remote viewing one day and stuff. He already is.
Right.
He's like, Mom, I want to be the cryptid hunter. I'm like, okay, well, we got to get you out in the woods to look for Bigfoot then. Okay.
Right.
Cryptid huntress and the cryptid hunter. All right.
That's awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming, Jessica, and doing this for us. And if you are ever in Missouri, you need to look us up.
Oh, I will. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure getting to talk with y'all tonight.
It was fun. It was fun.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And until the next time, we will see you later. I'm going to shut you off. Hold on.
Bye, guys.
Bye.